For these last couple of units and lessons, we're going to be focusing on measurement. And we're going to first look at measuring with a foot and an inch, and then we're going to go into the centimeter. But what we need to understand and realize is that in our world, there are two ways to measure. Now, the first way to measure that we're going to look at is called the U.S. customary unit. And this is called the U.S. customary unit because the United States is the only place that uses this type of measurement. Now, the rest of the world uses the second type of measurement that we will focus on later in this unit, which is called the metric unit. Places like Canada and Spain and France and Germany and Russia and China and Australia and Brazil, they all use this type of measurement. Here in the United States, we use the U.S. customary unit. Now, I want you to think, if you were to measure something, you could use any item or any object you have to measure. You could use your pencil. You could use an eraser. You could use your finger. You could use a marker. You can use anything you want. But there becomes a problem with that. Not everything that you use is the same length. And this started to become a problem back in the old days. People would go to a store and they would buy a certain length of fabric or yarn, and they would sell it by the hand. Well, not everybody's hand is the same length. And so people were getting different amounts of things for different prices. So they took this to the king, and the king came up with a new way to measure where everything was the same. And what he came up with was the inch, the foot, and the yard. Now, the inch he developed as the distance between your knuckle, but it has to be on your ring finger. The foot, it's very straightforward, was the length of his foot. Now the yard was the distance from the center of his chest out to his fingertips. With this, there became a full-on similarity in distances. And once they created these, they then went back and made tools to measure with. We now call those tools a ruler. So now everybody was getting the same amount and the same length of things based on these new things the king taught them. Now, in the United States, we use what is called the U.S. customary unit, where our main unit is the foot. Now, everybody's foot is very close to the actual distance of a foot. It's not exact, but it is close. Now, we have a smaller unit, which is the inch. and we have a larger unit, which is the yard. Now today, we are going to focus on the foot. Tomorrow, we're going to focus on the inch. But what I want you to understand today is that we can go back and forth between these units if we get enough. So, in a foot, there are 12 inches. So once I get 12 inches, I get a foot. Our ruler, if you look at it, is a foot because there are 12 inches on that ruler. Now, a yard occurs when you get 3 feet. So if you put 3 rulers together, you would get a yard. That is also equal to 36 inches. So in our version of measurement, an inch, once we get 12 of them, they make a foot. Once we get 3 feet, we get a yard. That means that's the same as 36 inches. So a foot is 1/3 of a yard, and an inch is 1/12 of a foot, and 1/36 of a yard. Now these are the abbreviations for yard, YD, foot, FT, and inch, IN. Well, today we're going to practice doing some measurement with a foot and seeing how long some of our everyday objects around the room are. So there is a foot over on the table. I would like you to cut that out because you will be using it later today.